this is CapCAN Notes, the official podcast of the Capital Area College Access Network. We are excited to engage the community in conversations about college access. I'm your host, Eric Catchman, and AmeriCorps Vistas are with CapCAN. Joining me is CapCAN's Executive Director, Michelle Strauss, and our guest, Amber Paxton, of the City of Lansing and partner of the Office of Financial Empowerment, BOLD Lansing, and Lansing Save. So let's get started. First of all, Amber, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So we begin our podcast with a personal story of who encouraged you to continue your education beyond high school and why it was important for you to do that. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yes, I have an unusual story about who that was that I think will speak to some folks who may be listening. I had my first child very early. I was pregnant when I graduated high school, although I graduated with really good grades and knew that I had built a path to a bright future. I had had a child, and it was my DHS caseworker who convinced me that that did not need to stop me from going to college. And he helped me with everything from the FAFSA, because I was financially independent, being that I was a parent, to applying for scholarships. And he was even the person I would call if I was stressed out about a paper. And so I had this just incredible experience of my governmental caseworker helping me to achieve goals that I thought were now out of reach.
That's a great story, Amber. I didn't know that specifically about your experience, so appreciate you sharing that.
Yes, his name was Mr. Rose. I remember him very well.
Oh, that's wonderful, wonderful. So shout out to all those social workers and other government employees who inspire kids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Takes a village.
It does, it does. So our work together has been focused on community empowerment, especially financial empowerment. So would you explain why these forms of empowerment are important in our community for individuals and for the community at large?
Yes, and thank you for asking. This is my favorite topic in the world. In order for us to feel empowered financially, there's certain things we have to have. We have to have opportunity, right? We have to have access to education, access to a good paying job. We just need opportunity. And then we also need knowledge. And when people speak of financial literacy, as you know, I always cringe, because low income people or people who are struggling to stay on top of their finances are not less literate. They have less resources. And so, but there are these bits of knowledge that we sort of know if we're raised in middle class or upper middle class homes that we don't necessarily know otherwise. Things like this. If you have a car payment and you're unable to pay it that month, most people don't know. You can call the people who hold your car note and ask to skip a month. And they'll almost always do that once a year. And we don't tell people this. We don't teach it in school. And so, things like that, or things like if all your bills are falling on one paycheck and not the other, you can call your creditors and say, can you move some of those dates? And so when we speak of financial capability or financial empowerment, that's what we're talking about. We call them the hidden rules. And so we try to get people to the hidden rules, but there's also a bunch of those hidden rules around higher education. And that's why we love you all, because you get those hidden rules out to the people who need to have them. And so it's this, when we talk about empowerment, it's not about you don't know certain things, so we're going to teach them to you. It's more about there's these little hidden tricks of the trade that we can share with you that give you a leg up. And it's also about access and opportunity. So, when we say we are empowering people, it's very important to know we are not saying we come from on high and assist you because you need our help. It is, here are some information and tricks and secrets that you need to know in order to be as successful as you can be with what you have.
Right. We talk about first generation college students all the time. And for many of these families, they're first generation financial consumers, right? Because they've maybe been unbanked previously.
Yes. That's why all the things we do together, and I'm sure we're going to talk about BOLD, but all the things we do together in BOLD Lansing contribute to that, from kindergarten all the way to retirement. That if there's things you don't need to know, we will help you. And when we have given you all of our tools, then we will pass you on to the partner in the continuum that can give you the next set.
definitely. Thanks.
Yeah, my parents are always telling me about. So both my parents were actually the first generation of their families to go to college, and they were always telling me about all the little things that they didn't know about, or all the little things they had to do that felt like paperwork and stuff. Obviously, back in the day, like typewriters, even before like we had electronic keyboards. And I'm always listening to that, thinking like, that's kind of just like instinctively ingrained knowledge for me because I'm second generation, obviously. But somebody going into the college experience for the first time just wouldn't know that.
Right.
So,
I remember to apply for a scholarship when I graduated from high school. It was all on paper. You went to the financial aid
Mhm,
office and you pulled out a binder
mhm.
and you looked through these opportunities. And, you know, thank goodness my mother, who had not been to college at that point, she has now, was taking me to the financial aid office and going through that binder. I don't know who told her. I'll have to ask. But, these were things that college graduate parents knew to help their child with, and most other parents did not know.
your office is a partner and funder of the Financial Empowerment Center. Could you pro- could you describe who is eligible and what services the Financial Empowerment Center provides?
Absolutely. So the Financial Empowerment Center, we also call it the FEC for short, is a partnership of the City of Lansing and Cristo Rey Community Center, which is over on the north end of Lansing on High Street. And we launched in 2013 the Financial Empowerment Center to deliver free one-on-one financial counseling to anyone 18 and over that wants to attend. And we focus on the City of Lansing, but we do not close the doors to others. And it's focused on low to moderate income folks and things that can help them most, but it's also open to all. And so we've had professors who were retired come in there for a gut check on things when when their stock portfolio went down. Now we don't do stock advising. Let me caveat that. But and we've also had people who are homeless, but on average, our clients make somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000 a year and have a couple of kids. So we're talking about people who have to make a little bit go a long way. And that free financial counseling is based on 4 service plans. They can be in all 4 or just 1 or 2, depending on what they need. And so the plans are banking, savings, credit, and debt. And so our financial counselors go through extensive training, and they help folks with those 4 things, but they also help them by referring them to others. So one of the partners we have is Capital Area Housing Partnership. If somebody is working with us and then they become ready to look at like buying their first home, then they can go see the folks at CAP. We're also partnered with LEAP. So if one of our clients is doing great work with us and they are looking at starting a small business, we can connect them to that. So the theory behind the Financial Empowerment Center is it's called the super vitamin effect. And if you Google that, you'll find really interesting stuff. And what it means is that if we integrate financial counseling into existing programs and services that come from nonprofits and government, then we can make those services more efficient or more effective or both. So that's the whole key. Is it's somebody might be getting rental assistance, and then we help them, and they may not need to go back for additional assistance because we're helping them get back on their feet, develop a savings plan, and create a buffer, that sort of thing. And so that's been going on for that program launched in March of 2013. So we just had our 9th birthday, and it has decreased the debt of its clients by over $12 million. So it's a significantly impactful program with lots of data and evidence.
Yeah, and one of the experiences that came out of a lot of that work that you've been doing in the community is the evolution of the children's savings account program called Lansing Save. Can you talk about how that came to be and what are the post-secondary goals of the program and how the partnership with the Lansing School District has evolved?
Absolutely. So Lansing Save is what we call a children's savings account, or CSA. So you'll hear CSA used for other things, but in this case, we're talking about children's savings accounts. And what it is that it's a savings account that is opened automatically without the parent having to do anything. That's one of the keys, is universal and automatic. Everybody gets it and no one has to do anything to get it. It's just opened automatically. And we launched that program in January of 2015 with MSUFCU. And what it does is it opens that post-secondary education savings account, which is actually a certificate of deposit, by the way. So not all CSAs are CDs, but ours is. It opens a CD for them and it puts the first $5 in. And the research behind CSAs is out of Dr. Willie Elliott, who is now at University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, but used to be at University of Kansas when he did his initial research. And what it showed was that for low to moderate income families, any amount between $1 and $499 that's put into a savings account for a child that the child knows about, they know it's earmarked for education and it's in their name, is 3 times more likely to go to post-secondary and 4 times more likely to complete, which is mind-blowing. And when we decided that we wanted to launch such a program, we modeled ours very much after San Francisco's, which is called kindergarten to college, or K to C. And we looked high and low for a financial institution that could do this, because it's not easy. It's a big lift. And it's a huge commitment from the financial institution. And it ended up taking us over 2 years to choose a financial institution, which was MSUFCU, which, as we all know, is kind of a no-brainer. They are very large. They are very connected to post-secondary education already. And they are so dedicated to the community. And so that was initially a partnership of the city and MSUFCU and the school district. But those 3 partners were never the only ones at the table for Lansing Save. We also have had CapCAN at the table from day one. We've had Promise at the table from day one. We've had CEDM helping us from day one. And so what we found is that by keeping all those partners in the planning stages, that we were working as a community to make sure Save was something that was good for our kids and not just on our own as a standalone program. Did I forget to recognize anyone, Michelle?
Boy, no, not off the top of my head.
And the FEC is also part of that. So that same financial counseling program is also part of this partners group that we have that gets together and goes through the data. We disaggregate all the data about Lansing Save by race, by gender, by school, or not by school district, it's just Lansing schools, but by by school, by cohort year. So we did a rollout where we opened, like half of kindergartners got an account, and then 3/4, and then 100%. So when we were doing this rollout, we were like counting the cohorts so that we could see if they got their account at kindergarten, how much different was that for their future than at 4th grade. So it's very data and evidence based what we're doing as a community. We're all data sharing and seeing, okay, what are we seeing? What do these students need from us? What do their parents need from us? And so the program's been very successful, and we're just delighted that we were able to get it started.
And we're now up to 6th graders. So
we're in 7th grade.
Oh, that's right.
Year.
7th grade. Yep.
Yeah. This has been the wildest ride the last 2 years. I mean, our partners, couldn't go into the schools anymore for a while. But we've managed to keep it all together and keep serving kids. And MSUFCU does a tremendous job. They actually, with Lansing Save, they visit every classroom every month between December and May and teach a financial education lesson and allow the students to make deposits at school. And that's just had so much impact on the program.
So, as you mentioned, these accounts, the children's savings accounts, are through the Michigan State University Federal Credit Union. And you kind of mentioned they have these financial educators who provide regular classroom lessons to teach, obviously, these financial skills and educate the students about these topics. So why is it important for students and parents to understand this, and how can it help them to pursue or attain their goals?
When we were talking about the hidden rules earlier, this is kind of the similar thing. When I had a personal economics class in high school, and I love that a lot of the schools are starting to integrate this, because it needs to be lifelong lessons, right? I remember having my kids have 3 piggy banks, And one was for saving, and one was for spending, and one was for sharing. So they would come to me and say, I have a birthday party to go to on Saturday and I need to buy a present. I go get your share pig, right? Because we're gonna get a gift out of with our share money. And so just like these skills that we start teaching at kindergarten, they accumulate over time. And it's really great because the students have someone coming in their classroom at kindergarten talking about bank accounts and that they already have one. So here's a child that might not have had a bank account until adulthood. They're already, becoming familiar with what banking is all about, with how you make a deposit because they can make one at school, and so this all accumulates over time so that we are, as a community, making sure our kids have these skills. And then they become adults who can continue to receive help with those skills from all the agencies that are still at the table. So they can go to FEC. They can go to FEC until they retire if they want, every month, and just have someone to gut check their finances with them. And so, part of the magic of this is things like, well, you need a savings buffer. How did most of us learn that we need a savings buffer? By having emergencies we couldn't afford to pay for.
Yep.
Right? And so if we're teaching the kids this from kindergarten on, you need a savings buffer because the car will break down, the furnace will blow,
we will have a pandemic.
Exactly. I mean, think about the poor kids who were at the end of high school through this pandemic, and they didn't get the things that we got. They didn't get the prom and the homecoming, and I mean, some of those things they got, but in a strange way, and they were bearing with it. But we've all been through a lot, so every little bit of resources that we give to folks is helpful, and sometimes it's not even that they need us for anything other than emotional support. Sometimes it's just knowing, whoa, there's like 5 or 6 agencies here who are saying, what do you need and how can we help you? That's what is, for me, very special about Lansing, makes us different from most other communities, is we're right here for you the whole time. And not every community has that. Multiple agencies wanting to take your hand at kindergarten and walk you through to retirement.
Yeah, and I think this is a good segue to the next question about all of our partners within BOLD Lansing, is that we really truly believe in a warm handoff. And it's because of those relationships that we have as agencies, but also as individuals in relationship, that we can really model, I guess, what we want parents to do and understand on behalf of their kids. So tell us a little bit about BOLD and again, the partners, and why this has been so important for us to work collaboratively.
Absolutely. I love to tell this story because it is so funny how BOLD came about. We had all been, as I mentioned, we'd all been meeting together. Michelle was one of the reasons we were all doing that. Michelle and a woman who used to work for CEDM, they were pulling us all together into these meetings, and they were had all these tools that we could use to work together and collaborate. And we were all meeting together, but we didn't call it anything. And then Justin Sheehan from Lansing Promise came into my office one day. He'd been in City Hall for something else, and I had a giant sticky notepad on the wall, and he just started drawing. And he was drawing BOLD. And at the time, we initially called it something else, but we didn't realize how unusual an integrated model like that was until we started getting asked to speak at all these national conferences about it. I mean, every year we were getting 3 or 4 requests for all of us to go and present at conferences because we were doing something unique. And the reason that surprised us is it's not difficult to do. It's not complicated. It's just not common to be collaborative. And we know why this happens, right? If we're all serving the same people, we get protective of our clientele, of the people we serve, of our space. And there is just, for whatever reason, none of that with the BOLD partners. We're all just all in, and we don't worry about bleeding over into each other's space. I mean, I was at an event last night and I had CapCAN info on my table. So, we're all like, no, if you get one of us, you get all of us. Right. And so we didn't know we were doing something unique, but we ended up getting this amazing grant 2 years ago, 2.5 now, maybe close to 3. I don't even know. Time is nothing
It was
anymore.
before COVID.
Pre-COVID, in that world, in that alternative universe, we got a grant that was for 2 years from What Works Cities. And if you Google What Works Cities, you'll find all kinds of interesting things, including articles about BOLD Lansing. But we went to them and we said, listen, in our vision of the world, they all see BOLD as one thing.
Right.
The parents, the families, the students. But really what was happening is, as partners, we were 100% there. We were all integrated, we were locked arms, and we were like serving everyone as one entity. But the way it felt to the families wasn't necessarily like that. They might talk to CapCAN at an event and never know about Lansing Save, or they might be completely connected to Promise and have no idea that FEC was a resource. And so what we said to them was, how can you help us make this the way people feel it, that they feel it coming at them as a continuum of supports rather than a program and then another program and then another program. And so they did help us. We got some excellent and amazing technical assistance from places like Harvard GPL and Johns Hopkins. And they helped us do a number of things to do this better in a way that we were reaching out to folks. Now, what I will share though is it's still not perfect. It's not where we want it to be yet. When we will be happy, when you'll see Michelle and I relax and go off on vacation, is when every parent K through 12 in the Lansing School District knows that all these supports are available to them. They know exactly what CapCAN does and what Promise does and what FEC does and what the credit union can do and all of these things. And there's just this awareness that all those things are at their disposal. And we're not there yet, but we're trying. So the biggest thing that we want people to do if they want to just dip their toe into BOLD is go to boldlansing.org and click on the action plan. And it's just a Google Doc. You can download it, customize it for your own use. And it's basically a list of K through 12 activities to do to get your child more prepared for post-secondary ed. Or if you are said child that is, now in your teen years, that you can do on your own. And so, that's how we're trying to convince folks to just check it out in a non-committal way, is just go to that website, boldlansing.org, click on that action plan, see if it's a useful tool for you. And if it had this one other thing, email us and we will add it. I mean, we really want to know, like, what else do you need in those plans? But that's really the theory behind the whole thing, is that we want to be felt as a continuum of supports that takes your child's hand at kindergarten and doesn't let go until they're ending their career.
Definitely. And for people who are listening or watching about us, we've all been taking turns taking over BOLD social media over the past 3 months. And so we even go so far as to commit to sharing that responsibility as a collaborative. And it's been a lot of fun to see the energy that we've created as we've been talking about BOLD Lansing, and certainly about the resources and supports that are available to families. Good.
Yeah, I think it takes a lot of humility. One of the things I really respect about the partners that we have is that it takes a lot of humility to do work like this. Because
Definitely.
you have to assume that you have to internalize the belief that your program doesn't solve everything. Right. That you need everyone else too. And I love that, because we never had to make that pitch in this group.
No, not at all.
Everyone is just, how can I help? How can I help? How can I help? We just did a postcard that's going to go home. By the time this airs, it will have gone out already. It was going out to all 6th grade and all 12th grade to offer some cool things they can do to earn some gift cards. And in the meeting where we discussed doing this, MSUFCU said, we'll design it for you. And, and Lansing Promise was like, we'll give you some of the incentive. And everyone just says, well, yes, we're here for the families. And I love that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, it is a way to wrap up here, is that it truly is a public public-private partnership. So these are government and nonprofits and corporate entities coming together. And that's what is so unusual about it. So besides BOLD Lansing, is there any other ways that you want people to connect if they need any assistance from the City of Lansing or the Financial Empowerment Center?
Yes, I will say this. Right now, we know a lot of people are struggling financially because of the effects of COVID, reduced income, and things that have happened in the last 2 years. And we really want people to access the Financial Empowerment Center. And so the easiest way to do that is to go to CristoRayCommunity.org. And Cristo has no H, CRISTOREY, CristoRayCommunity.org. And the Financial Empowerment Center is listed under the programs, and just have a look. We are currently still doing sessions by phone, so you don't even have to leave your home. And we just want people to know that we are here if you need a little help right now. Another thing that we're doing right now that's interesting is we got a grant to work with figuring out what are the consumer financial protection issues we need to be aware of in the city. Like, speaking directly to, are there instances where companies might take financial advantage of folks? And a lot of times when that happens, we don't know who to call, right? This happened to me when I had someone do some work in my home and did it improperly, and I had no idea who to call. And that made me think, okay, I live in this world. So if I don't know who to call, most people probably don't. And so we are looking at just gathering some information from the community about what we need to be looking at for that group. We're starting an advisory board that will include families. So if anyone's interested in that in particular, they can feel free to look me up and give me a call.
Great, great. Well, we are all about family voices in this work that we do together. So I appreciate you mentioning that opportunity to get engaged.
So it seems we're coming to the end of the interview, and I have one last question. We end every interview with #CapCAN notes, where you state your name and what you know. So I ask you, Amber Paxton, who are you and what do you know?
I'm Amber Paxton, and I know economic mobility.
Great. Thanks, Amber, for being with us today.
Thanks so much.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you, Amber, for coming on the podcast to chat with CapCAN. For more information on CapCAN, please be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Links will be in the video description below, or visit our website at capcan.org. Thank you all for listening to us today, and we will see you again soon.